Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business. Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm very excited to have Doug Nelson joining us. Doug, welcome.
Thank you very much, Michael.
So Doug, tell us what you do and what your area of expertise is.
Well, Michael, I'm the managing director of the Discovery Group. We're a boutique consultancy based in Vancouver, British Columbia, and we work with not-for-profit boards, senior management teams on aligning governance, planning, and performance. So we help organizations identify where they have opportunities to be doing a better job in terms of driving dollars to mission, performing against their mission, and reporting back to those that support them on how well they're doing in their work.
Fantastic. Doug, I've had the pleasure of just watching your consulting business achieve and continue to grow significantly. Take us back though. I mean, before starting your own consulting business, what was your role and career path?
Well, I had been involved in the not-for-profit or social profit sector for pretty much my entire career, and started in university fundraising and moved into healthcare later on, and was CEO of the BC Cancer Foundation and then a large hospital in San Francisco. And I got to the point where I realized there's got to be a better way for organizations to govern themselves. A lot of boards or CEOs spend about 25 to 45% of their time just managing their boards. That's time they're not spending on raising money, on working with clients or constituents, not delivering on the mission. There's got to be a better way that organizations can structure themselves and how they can work together. And I set out on a little bit of a journey to talk to as many of my colleagues as I could, both in the United States and Canada, about what was working for them, what didn't work for them. And what I heard back really consistently was it was hard to get alignment, so that the board was talking about the same things the management team was talking about, that the rest of the organization was working on any given Wednesday. And worked over the last couple of years to develop a suite of tools to help organizations find that alignment and hold on to it once they've got it.
Yeah, that's so great that you really solicited that feedback from potential kind of end user ideal clients. Very often consultants have these ideas coming off their corporate career of what the market might want, but they haven't really taken the time to validate whether or not that need really exists and if it is in fact a problem. So it's great that you not only had this idea, but then through conversations that was kind of reaffirmed for you. So, okay, you're bringing a wealth of experience and expertise clearly to start your consulting business. What type of challenges or obstacles did you face when you first got started?
Well, Michael, I'd never been a consultant before. So it was a very steep learning curve, moving from having been CEO with a couple of different organizations, and then moving out and starting the Discovery Group with myself, one other partner, and we've added a couple of staff along the way. But it's been really, the learning curve was learning how to have a conversation with clients, how to make sure to be picking up the phone and having those conversations with potential clients, and then matching the sales funnel to the delivery. And when the sales funnel was working particularly well, or we were taking on a lot of clients, doing some really deep, engaging work, and realizing that we just needed more hours in the day. So it's been a steep learning curve to keep the business moving, the business coming in, and then delivering at the level that our clients expect of us.
There's a lot in there that I think we can explore to the benefit of others. Looking back when you initially took on your first client and then you're looking for that next client, what was going on in your mind? What were like the big concerns? And I'm really trying to explore with you here. What do you feel was maybe just like all consuming for you, or the greatest challenge, or the area that maybe you were like lying in bed thinking, okay, how do I fix this? How do I deal with this?
Well, I had a really clear idea about the value that I wanted to deliver for clients. Having spoken to so many colleagues about what they saw as problems in their organizations, and along the way I was asking them whether what they found was successful in working with consultants, what they liked, what they didn't like, where they found value, when they decided to hire consultants. So I had a sense of what we wanted to deliver, the conversations we wanted to have with boards and CEOs and their organizations. What was keeping me up at night was how to get to have those conversations. And what I found most effective was really the discipline of just doing it on a consistent basis. Picking up the phone, sure sending some emails, sure using LinkedIn, but for the most part, picking up the phone and calling people, either in my direct network or people that had referred me on, and telling them about the Discovery Group, what we were trying to do, and asking them if they had similar problems. And there were lots of days when I didn't want to pick up the phone. There was either client work to do, or I wasn't feeling it, or I was nervous, didn't want to get rejected. But just knowing that it was my discipline, it was my practice to do that every day or every week. And so every Tuesday morning was what I set aside for myself, was to make sure to make those calls. And we continue, all of us in the group continue to make those calls. We have our Tuesday morning call outs, and everybody does their calls either to check with existing clients or past clients, or to identify and continue to build relationships with potential clients.
Yeah, and you've done a really terrific job of that. I mean, that's, I know, one of the things that we talked on kind of about in terms of strategy for you that you've really executed on so well here, Doug. But a lot of people maybe know that they should be being more consistent with their marketing or just taking more consistent action around their outreach, but yet they still don't do it. What do you think for you, and also now for your team as your company has grown, has been the driver? I mean, was it just simply a decision of, okay, yeah, starting today, we're going to do this, and like it's not a question of not doing it, it's just going to happen? Or was there some other driver that kind of became alive within you that helped you and kind of compelled you to ensure that it happens consistently?
There's two answers to the question. The first answer is my monkey brain was very, very aware that without clients, the business wasn't going to work. And the bank would get grouchy about not getting their mortgage payment, and the children would be hungry and those kinds of things. So there was that base fear of wanting to be successful, of needing to be successful.
Yeah.
Once we got started, it was really the value of that we wanted to bring to our clients. So we've identified what we believe to be a real problem across the social profit sector in Canada and the United States, which is the alignment of boards and their management teams. And so it was an opportunity, this outreach is an opportunity to hear the stories of other organizations, hear what other CEOs and board chairs and board members are seeing in their organizations. And even if we're not moving those organizations forward as potential clients, or it's going to be a long time before they're a client, we're hearing their story, and we can apply that, learning those situations, to our existing clients and really add a greater depth of experience than we otherwise would be able to do. And it is, again, it just comes back to, this just has to be something we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about, this is something I have to do. And there have been clients that are potential clients that I know I should call, that I've put off for a couple of weeks because I'm not really sure how I want to approach it, or I'm not really sure where to start. And every time I invest the energy in coming up with an excuse to not call that one client or potential client, I'm reminded, you're wasting time. Just pick up the phone. It's going to go better than you think, and you'll know the answer, and then you can react to what you learn. It really is a consistent discipline that I have to keep coaching myself and coaching my team to make sure that we continue to do.
So making this as tactical and valuable for everyone listening, how do you approach those phone calls? What have you learned? What have you found to work best to call a prospective client and be able to move that conversation forward?
At the very basic level of tactics, on the monitor in my office, I have a sticky note with the number 4 on it. It's there all the time. And that's the number of potential clients that I want to talk to every week. And not past clients, but this is the number of new outreaches that I want to make every week. And my week isn't over until I've done all of those things. And I'm mindful that nobody wants to get a call from me at 4:30 on Friday afternoon, so I got to do it earlier in the week. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. The second is making sure that I understand where that organization is, what their governance structure is. Organizations will tell you that. And there's a lot of information available about how for-profit organizations are doing in terms of their finances, how they're structured, who's on their board, and those kinds of things.
So you're doing some research before you make those phone calls?
Yeah, and understanding where they might be in their development cycle. Organizations with new CEOs tend to be very, very open to change and trying to understand how they can make the organization work better. Once organizations are into their growth curve and they're really focused on execution, we can certainly add value around the margins there, but we find that a lot of those clients, a lot of those organizations really need to be focusing just on delivering on the plan that they have, and we can help them tweak that plan and help them align their board. The other place that we find organizations really in need of our help or really open to the conversation is where there's been a long-term CEO that maybe in the last 36 to 12 months or shorter, looking at retirement or leaving the organization. And that's when the board is usually starting to ask more tactical operational questions about how the organization is performing and how it might perform better.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding the stage of where the organization is at in terms of its leadership is a really important thing for our work and the conversations that we want to have with them to be able to show how we might add value for them.
And so, Doug, do you make that phone call and then ask them those questions, or are you making the phone call more with the mindset of getting yourself on their radar? What's the approach that you're taking in terms of the actual conversation that you're having with them?
We're making educated guesses about where organizations are in their stage. So having that, but then asking questions, typically with the CEO, about what issues they're facing as it relates to their board, their strategic plan, and the performance of the organization. And I find it within the first 3 to 4 minutes, most CEOs will give pretty strong clues about what issues are giving them pain. And just digging into those and asking questions about how they're approaching it. One of the things that, having been a CEO, I know those jobs are particularly lonely. You can't be as worried or concerned as you may be feeling to your CFO or to your chief of marketing, your head of fundraising. You can't admit the vulnerability and all the things you don't know to your board chair because they're your boss. And so it's one of the things that we spend a lot of our time with is it's really acting as that strategic thinking partner with CEOs to help them position themselves with respect to the board, position the board itself, and then drive that change that they're trying to make in the organization right through the organization.
Yeah, that's terrific. Doug, I know you've shared with me that your average engagement in consulting project value has increased. People always want to earn more, but they're often not sure how to actually achieve that. So how do things look for you now compared to before in terms of your engagements and how you've been able to really extract, you're creating more value, but also being able to extract higher levels of compensation and value for your consulting business as well?
2 things. One is really the steep learning curve of learning how to be a consultant. And now that we've taken on a team, we have responsibilities to be able to make payroll and those kinds of things. But learning how to do this work better has been a big part of it. Really focusing on understanding the challenges our clients are facing and the value that we can give to them. A lot of it has been our own confidence or my own confidence in being able to say the cost of this project will be X instead of Y, or will be Y instead of X. And what I've come to understand and what I've learned is that when you're asking questions about what's really challenging for CEOs and for board chairs, the cost is always going to be less than the problem. So the fee is always going to be less than the problem they're trying to solve, and significantly so. And so just having the confidence to say what the value of the consulting is going to be, say it with a straight face and sincerity. And we've seen our average engagement nearly double just in the last 6 months as a result of that.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned that you're building and have built a team. You're now up to 4, 5, 6 people, roughly in that range. How did you know when to start building your team and actually adding team members? What was your mindset around that? And how did you actually, like the tipping point to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to start building a team, or I'm going to start adding another team member?
One of the things that we say to all of our clients, and is true across the social profit sector, I think it's true across every business sector, is that your results will follow your investments. You need to put the money in before you see the result. The basic common sense.
Yeah.
The scarcity mindset of being new at consulting, it was really hard for me to follow my own advice and take that step to invest. We had a couple of clients relatively early on that required very specialized services of a legal nature. We were talking to some organizations about merging, and so needed to bring that expertise into the team to be able to answer those more legalistic, bureaucratic kind of problems for those clients. And so what our clients demanded of us helped make that jump easier. But that was, for me, that was the biggest struggle that I've had since we launched the group, was when to take that next step, when to add the support to make everybody able to focus more on driving value for our clients. We've decided to do that because our clients have required more of our time, but we have consistently invested just before it was a crisis.
That saying that you shared, I think, was really good. Could you just repeat that again about the investment and the results coming out from that?
The advice we give clients, and we know it in our sector, I think it's true across all businesses, is that the results follow the investments. Beautiful. You can't expect to grow and then invest. You have to invest first before you can grow. It's hard to follow when we're as a small shop and starting out, but we've managed to keep a focus on that, and it's worked out pretty well so far.
Yeah, I would like 100%. That's my experience as well. I know for us, when the first consulting business we started and even later on in other consulting businesses in the early days, there's a lot of concern or hesitation around making big investments. And sometimes it's really scary, but doing that is really what's created the greatest kind of breakthroughs for us. And I think for many others too. So that's really good advice.
And looking back over the last 6 months, I think we could have added months earlier. And the planning that we've been doing at the start of 2019 here is to make sure that we are investing even earlier as we go forward. So as we grow this year, we're going to be investing before the pressure starts to build, because I think the opportunity is there. The opportunity to work with the clients who need our services is there. So we're going to focus on that.
Great. One conversation that I know has come up recently is the question of whether to, for consulting firms that have teams, whether to work in one physical location together or spread out in a virtual office. You have a physical office, your team works there. What's been your reasoning for that? I mean, the reason for really having that versus going virtual?
One of our teammates is virtual, but for the most part, I really like the sense of team. Our clients work as teams, both as boards and as their senior management teams. And a lot of our best thinking happens out loud and in a group. So we come together and spend a lot of time with a whiteboard, taking notes on defining the problems our clients are facing and then a path forward to help them manage that. It's how I work best, is on a team and in a team. And I think it matches the reality of most of our clients.
Yeah. I think it's a good insight, and it's not one that is necessarily right for everyone. There's some people in some situations where the virtual setup will be better for them, and others, being all in one place is so important. I know for me, having a dedicated space is really critical. From when my daughter was young, there's no way I could work from home anymore, which is what I'd had done for the last probably at that point 17 years or so. But our team is all virtual. It works really well for us based on our lifestyles and kind of the way that we run things. But having a dedicated kind of quiet space to concentrate is certainly really important for me. And it's why I have an office outside of the house. But for you, and I know many others, having that team all in one place is really key. And that's just the important thing for everyone to listen, is to figure out what's right for you and the way that you work, and it's going to help you to perform at the highest levels. The other question I had here for you today, Doug, is that you work in the nonprofit sector, right? With boards and leaders. Sometimes people believe that there's no money in nonprofit. You've clearly proved that wrong. I know your business is doing very well, but even for those that are not in the nonprofit sector, they might be in an industry or a sector where they just kind of find it hard to create a lot of value and earn higher fees. What would you say to them? What's been your experience with that?
Well, I think the not-for-profit sector, the social profit sector, is one of the fastest growing economy or parts of the economy in both the United States and Canada. And there are now career programs, people coming out of university or going to university in order to get into the sector. It really is emerging as an economic force. One of the things that's changing in the sector is it used to be that it was sort of the thinking was, well, we're not for profit, so being nice is good enough.
Right.
But the reality is the organizations, some of them run on shoestrings, some of them slightly more than that. Nobody's running with fat budgets at all anywhere in the sector. And so the organizations that are successful have a real discipline about where they invest the resources, both in terms of their staffs and the programming and the consultants that they hire. So that rigor, I think, really serves us at the Discovery Group very well, because we want to show that investing with us in the work that we're going to do with them is a part of that diligence that they show with the dollars that they have to invest. And the other part of it is there is a real working with boards, the difference between social profit boards and for-profit boards, particularly public companies. Social profit boards, individuals come to them because they want to give back. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves, and they want to do good. And the real opportunity for social profit organizations is to get the professional experience, the personal wisdom out of as many of their board members as much as possible. And too often in the sector, we have people sitting around the table listening to reports, asking a couple of questions, and then they don't think about the organization again for another 3 months when the next board meeting comes up. And part of being aligned is really helping get the very best strategic expertise out of boards as possible. And that's how you set up the meetings, the kind of conversations the CEOs have in between meetings with board members, how you structure the meetings. All of that contributes to maximizing the value out of your board, which allows the organizations to be more successful when they're running on a day-to-day basis. Our job is to help the CEOs and the boards identify those opportunities to maximize the strategic time and minimize the listening to financial reports.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And I think good advice. And regardless for you listening right now to what Doug is sharing, even if you're not working in the same space or a space that you feel is anything close to being similar, just take what you've heard and, if you need to rewind and listen back to it and apply the similarities, because there's always similarities. There's always things that you can take from one industry or one sector, bring it to another, and you start seeing kind of exponential gains or benefits because it's a different perspective. It's a different way of thinking. So apply that critical thinking to everything that you're hearing here. Doug, I really want to thank you for coming on, sharing some of your journey and best practices with us. A lot to be gained from implementing. I know it's been a real pleasure watching your business grow, and I'm sure that as others implement some of the ideas and best practices that you've shared here today, or at least the mindsets and the discipline, they will see benefit from that too. One question here for you though, before we wind down, and it's something that I haven't asked before, but I figure I might as well test it out on you. And that is, what are you most excited about in your business and for this year?
I'm really excited to continue helping organizations find the way forward, find a better way forward. We talk about helping organizations to become exceptional. And the more clients and organizations that we're working with, we're seeing more and more how organizations are able to increase what the dollars they're raising, deliver more against mission. And I'm really excited to see what 2019 brings in terms of the number of organizations that we get to help become truly exceptional in the space.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will. Doug, for those who want to learn more about your work, where should they go?
Well, you can find me at website at thediscoverygroup.ca or on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite regularly, so look me up there and connect there. Happy to talk to anybody who's interested in, who's been starting their own consultancy, or certainly anybody in the social profit sector. Final thing I'd say, Michael, is you have been a tremendous asset in helping us in our adventure, and I want to thank you very much for all that you do to help us find our way.
Doug, thank you. It's been a real honor and pleasure for me as well. We will have all of that linked up in the show notes. So if you want to connect with Doug, and I certainly recommend that you do, great guy, accomplished a lot, wicked smart, and I think I would take him up on his offer there. We'll have all that linked up so you can go to Doug's LinkedIn profile and also his website. Check him out, thediscoverygroup.ca. Doug, again, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.